Grantis Naravan Dracovin, Lord and Emperor of the Dracovin Empire, and welcome. It is time to continue my discussion on Advanced Dungeons & Dragons, the second edition of AD&D. Well, where we last left off, we were talking about some vision. Let's talk about darkness. The fact is that no matter what your characters do, at some point in their time period as adventurers, they will face against darkness. And if they don't have infravision, they're facing against darkness as something that will have both a physiological reaction to darkness, it makes you be unable to see, but also there's this psychological level of what's unknown there, what you cannot detect and what you cannot understand deep within the darkness. When you're in the darkness, when you can't see, you're going to blunder about. You don't know what's going on. You can't tell. Your movement rate will be reduced to 1/3. Any attacks you make will be at -4. Saves, -4. Your AC is 4 less. Any kind of special sight-based abilities that to do damage, like backstabbing, you won't get those. You won't have those advantages because you can't see. Now, this isn't to say there isn't levels of darkness similar to levels of light. There's a chart in the book that tells you everything you need to know about when you're encountering darkness and how your character will necessarily react to it. Now, it is important to say that there is a blind fight proficiency, which will give you some advantages when you're fighting within darkness, because you're trained to not have to be able to see as much. Now, as an extension from darkness, let's talk about something else that involves not seeing. Invisibility. Invisibility is an important tool that either you as a player may use, or a creature that you're fighting against may use. Invisibility is important because a dungeon master has to look when invisibility is good to use. Will it add to a scene? Will it add to a campaign? Will it add to the adventure? When will it detract? Invisibility is a tool that can add interest, surprise, a new depth and level to an encounter that it didn't have before. But it should be used sparingly. It can unbalance things also. Now, invisibility, well, you are invisible to your enemies. They can't see you. But you're also invisible to your allies. You're also invisible to yourself. You can't see yourself. This means there are problems that come along with invisibility that aren't necessarily good for a combat. For one thing, though, you can do any action you can normally do as long as you would just do it. This includes spellcasting. But spellcasting is really the only thing that involves a little bit of manual dexterity that you can do without seeing yourself. If it's something that you're working with your hands and specifically working with tools and things, you get -4 to doing that. Or if it's percentage based, 15% less. It's not good to do something that involves you manipulating your hands and seeing how you're manipulating your hands. If you don't have to see that, you don't get that penalty. You also have to worry about your allies either running into you or shooting an attack that you end up acting as cover with and they don't know you're there. Your allies will not know you're there just as much as your enemies. Another thing that could go horribly wrong is if multiple players are invisible, you really don't know where each other is, and so you could run into each other or something even stupider, and comedy could actually ensue from this, something that you're not normally looking for in a game, as the two of you bungle into each other, both being invisible. Now, normal sight, improvision, they do not detect a invisible creature. Invisible creature tends to be difficult to tell where it is. There's no haze, no distortion, nothing that will hint at it. There are a couple of things, though. For one thing, if you're in an area where footprints will be left, invisible creature will leave footprints. In sand or snow, will show up there. Fog or smoke doesn't help you at all, though. Fog and smoke swirls and moves about on its own, so an invisible creature moving through there causing swirls and moving about isn't really detectable. Also, if an invisible creature is moving through the water, they don't leave like in a big hole or opening. You might see ripples where they're moving. That will occur. They will move the water, but there won't be that like massive displacement that looks like the area is just empty. This isn't to say that you couldn't notice an invisible creature. They're only invisible to your eyes. If you can hear them, if you should have some kind of great sense of smell, you could smell them. So there are ways of noticing. Magic might help too. A detect magic spell will let you know that there is magic in that area. You won't be able to pinpoint it, but you'll know it's there. Detect invisibility is the best when it comes to magical spells and actually pinpointing where an invisible creature is. Now a light source. I can go invisible with a light source. The fact is, then, it still emanates light. You might be able to tell that there's a light source somewhere in there creating light, but the actual light itself will be invisible. It might help you. And that's what comes to detection. When your DM gives you an opportunity to detect an invisible person, it will be because of various reasons. The book lists in a small chart about things that will hint on an invisible creature being there. You'll take a look at them, look at the factors, figure out, and this is going to determine when you check, which is going to be a save versus the spell, is what you're going to do to overcome the fact that he's invisible. You're not actually ending the invisibility, you're detecting that invisible creature's there. The frequency of the save and things like that nature will depend on what the invisible creature is doing. That's what it is. Whatever the invisible creature is doing will affect how often you can actually save against this in order to detect. If you make the save, you know something is there. That's it. You don't know where it is, you haven't pinpointed exactly, you just know it's there. If you fail, you are still completely unaware of it. Now you could attack that creature with a -4, but here's where it comes in handy. A little thing to think about. Just because you know something's there, that you can't see it, doesn't mean you're automatically going to be aggressive. I'm detecting a presence nearby. Something is here. I don't know where it is, but I know something is here. Okay. Why would you just attack it? Well-intelligent animals will go on alert. They'll be like, something's here. Defensive. Something like a orc or maybe a goblin might find a defensive position that they could protect themselves from, or cluster up with others of their kind to try to protect themselves. The fact is, they will not automatically act with aggression. It doesn't make sense because you don't know if it's a friendly or enemy. You just know something is there, and you can't see it. But that's it for today. So today, I talked about some more things related to vision. Darkness, which unless you have some kind of special vision or an actual light source, you might have to deal with it, and it will be dark and clawing, and you won't see anything. It will mess with you. And darkness will exist, and maybe you'll bring out a torch or something to protect yourself. But that's alerting everyone to your presence. Then I talked about invisibility, because it's something that creatures and sometimes players can use. I talked about how it works, how to detect them, how to work around with it, and what it really means to be dealing with an invisible creature, that you can't see them. It's important to note here also that if you don't have a vision-based system that you can detect things with, like if you're fighting a creature that wouldn't have eyes anyway, invisibility doesn't matter. Only if you see does invisibility infect you. In the next episode, though, we will move on and talk about time and how it's going to relate to your players, and movement. These are going to be things that it sounds a little simple to, but there's a bit of complexity here that we will handle when talking about these. But if you have any questions, comments, anything you want to say, anything you think I left out, please leave in the comments below. Please like, share, and subscribe at Church for the channel, the Empire, the work I do. If you want to show some extra support, you can always check out my Patreon, link in the description below. There's some great rewards there, helps to grow and improve the channel and the Empire. Regardless, until the next time, I bid you farewell.